Hi guys, Dennis here from Denny Bob's RC Construction and Ag Conversions, and I am seriously thinking about shortening that name to just Denny Bob's RC. It just gets to be a tongue twister once in a while, especially late at night. Um, I'm going to go through my grand hauler. I'm going to kind of go through some of the highlights, some of the things I've done, some of the details, whatnot. Guys do this stuff all the time, but I'm just going to kind of share my experience with it anyway. Um, Here we go. And here it is. Just a little bit more close up video of it. I'm not going to get too close because I don't want anybody to really see how crappy this paint job really is. But it's not bad. I've seen worse and I've seen better, believe me. Um, Kind of start at the front of the truck. Yeah, I've got the bull horns on. The grill is from True Scale Truck Stop, or True Scale RC. It's a Kenworth grill and came with the emblem, and it was already polished. Stock Tamiya Grand Hauler bumper and headlights. I do have dual headlights in here. I actually drilled through and put an additional 3mm bulb on the inside set. I have it's a factory sun visor, the Grand Hauler sun visor. I Instead of they glue it on or however, I actually drilled holes and got 2mm Allen headed bolts in there, which I am gonna order some 2mm hex headed bolts. And I get a lot of my hardware from Locked Up RC, so if anybody's interested, I can link to them. But I think a lot of you guys know who that is. The aerials, they're off eBay, and I plan on putting some 2mm hex heads to get rid of these screws. I don't like anywhere I could replace a Phillips headed screw, I replaced them with hex heads if I can. I took the Phillips screws out of here and put some Allen headed screws in there. Kind of cleans it up, makes it look a little bit nicer. It's all in the details, as they say. Now, my air cleaner pipes there, that is not painted. That is multiple sections of shrink tibbing, and kind of combined it. And I've seen a lot of the hoses that are molded and have seams in them and stuff when they're trying to mold them from factory on hoses. Now, maybe not on semis, but in the ag industry that I work in, I see that way. So, yeah, just the stock Grand pipes. And the turnouts are removable if I wanted to take the 45s off of it. The pinstriping is actually something I bought off eBay many years ago when I was doing little pulling tractor models for different guys, and they'd have some fancy pinstriping or whatnot. And I got assortments of different colors. I mean, they came in white, black, silver, red, different designs and whatnot. But that's what this stuff is here, and it's like a thin black printed decal, and just on clear, and same way I did the little zigzags on the fenders. The decals on this truck are straight up Tamiya King Hauler decals. Took me 3 sets of decals to do, the full length of the truck, around the back of the seat sleeper, and over top of the fenders, both fenders. So yeah, there's seams in there. Yeah, you get back a ways, you can't see them, but I've had a few guys ask me, why did you put the grab handles on there? Well, why did Tamiya put the grab handles there to begin with? The holes are already there. So I did go through and paint the hinges. I masked them off, and the door handles, on the cab and front there. I'm not going to mess around with painting the around the doors. I'm just not going to do it. As you can see, I used the hex-headed hardware to do that. The steps, the raised tread on the king hauler steps, I actually took and lightly sanded the raised portion, and I don't know if you can really tell it, but they're painted black like they would have grip tape on them. The air cleaners, this is not painted, this is pinstriping. I had some thin pinstriping banding in black, and made the black bands on there. Yeah, just the factory King Grand clearance lights and horns. I do understand why guys do get the stainless horns or chrome horns or metal horns. Them things are flimsy, easy to break if you're not careful, but I don't think this truck's ever going to be on its top. The tanks, I masked off the bands and painted them black. I sanded them down before I painted them. And yeah, I had some masking tape that was supposed to be painter's tape, but it literally left glue residue all over the tanks. So the tanks are not perfect anymore. I had a hell of a time getting that stuff off. I used some WD-40, I think, and just kind of wiped them, and that took the adhesive off. Now, the back panel here is just a thin piece of aluminum that I've sanded down and polished. Is it mirror finish? Not perfect. I wish I would have spent a little more time, a little more wet sanding, and maybe even gotten up to 1,000 grit sandpaper, 2,000 grit sandpaper, and got it really smooth. But it's good enough for me. It's got the stock Grand bumper on it, and some people have asked me about the fifth wheel. The fifth wheel, that's a Lasso M7004, I think is what it is. It's a pivoting one, and it is fully adjustable. I think it has 5 positions that you can lock it in. You can put a little more weight on the front steers if you need to, or take a little off, or whatever you want to do. I know some of the but I want to get away from this tilting one. I like the adjustability, but I want to get away from the tilting one, especially on the trucks with fenders, because I'm afraid if I get on some uneven terrain, depending on what trailer I have, it might hit the fender, and I don't want to screw up decals and mess up my fenders. So other than that, I actually put the Grand Hauler decal on there, and there's my logo on the back and also on the doors. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. I'm going to take that back door off here quick. I needed 2 hands for that. Yep, there's my XT60 plug for my battery. It's kind of a nightmare in there right at the moment, but my sound system's in there, my light switch is in there. Plenty of room for a big battery. I'm just running it on a little 2200 milliamp battery, but I can put a lot bigger battery in it. Now these wheels are from Hydraulic Hobbies. I know they're, and I took time and I just polished the outside dual. I didn't polish all 8 rims, or all 10, but I did polish the outside on the fronts too. But I know there's an American company making something very similar to these now, and they actually make oval holes and different versions of it. But I get those from Cleo B and Hydraulic Hobbies. I've actually got several sets coming. So for other trucks. But otherwise, yeah, that's this side of the truck. The other side of the truck. If I had it to do over again, I probably would have maybe cut the panels out and maybe put this one on that side, and did some different configurations, because some people have asked me, why is there 2 doors on one side? Well, it's 2 sleepers put together. I guess I could have sanded one of them down, filled it in, and eliminated it. There's a lot of things after the thoughts that you tend to do, but otherwise, yeah, And if I get too close, you guys can see the flaws in the paint. There's no doubt about it. I've got my fair share of impatience when it comes to bodywork. I'm not perfect. So let's kind of go to the underside of the truck. Just a second. Okay, just a stock Tamiya front axle. I did have to modify the front axle and ground, both front and back where these knuckles go, to make clearance so that it can get more turning radius out of it. And I made my own bent out tie rod to so that gives me more clearance there too. And I did have to grind out the outside of the shock mount where this comes in to contact. It's relieved in here to help that all steer a little bit further. I currently have the servos endpoint set at 120%, so it's gone as far as it can go. The stock 3-speed transmission. My on-off switch is underneath the one battery box here. 4-speed or 3-speed transmission with a 4-to-1 gear reduction on the back. And then there's a homemade drive shaft. I got some real heavy 5mm U-joints and this is a solid steel shaft. Countersunk or drilled in the ends with a set screw with some D-shaped 5mm shafting to make my drive shaft and go back to my carrier bearing. Now then the little lasso drive shaft there, and then the bad boy in between drive shaft. Now the springs on here are factory springs, but with a little bit of a kicker. There is 6 leaves on each side. Your stocks are 3. This has 6. And I have the factory shocks on here. But the 6 leaves, I basically put 2 kits and put them together. I did make the mistake of locking both diffs on this truck, which I regret that now, but I can go back in and unlock it. It's not a big deal. I may leave the rear locked, but I'm going to unlock the front. And that might help me with a little bit with steering too, since this truck is so long and it's got 2 posies in the back that makes it a little tough to steer. Otherwise, I think I've kind of basically covered everything on the truck. I think, anyway. She's not perfect. She's not, mint condition by no means, but it's my paint job, I guess. There's a lot of times I wish I could just hire somebody to do that, and I know there's guys out there that'll do it, but I like to do as much of it myself as I can. Like a lot of guys say, built, not bought, and I like to do all my building myself if I can. Just a pride thing, I think. And I don't know if I did cover this before or not. One thing I do regret is not filling in all these holes. Smoothing it out and getting rid of them. I mean, I think these were for a Tamiya light kit, and that's where the plug-in went for the trailer lights and all that stuff. But, kind of hindsight 2020 when you think about it. So, yeah, and then I painted the windows black on both sides. That's what they're supposed to be, as windows anyway. Just little details here and there. I'm constantly adding little things to it. I know one thing I want to do. I think I want to add a step, at least on one side. Boy, got my fingerprints all over it. That's the problem with stainless. I get fingerprints all over that stuff, or not stainless, but polished aluminum. It's a pain in the butt to keep clean. But anyway, so. And I'll be surprised if any of you stuck around to the end. I'll be honest with you. I got a little bit long-winded and started talking about stuff, but I love the truck, and I love doing this. This is super fun. I don't know why I didn't start doing this years ago. I did start with the Brooder conversion stuff, and I used quite a few Tamiya parts on those Brooder conversions. Front axle and little and wheels and stuff like that. So, um, and it was a cheap way for me to get into the hobby. It really was. Time consuming though, but some of us got more time than we got money. So anyway, difference between men and boys: price of their toys, right? And this hobby is getting awful expensive. But what else are you gonna do with it? Can't take it with you. So I'm enjoying it, and I'm gonna keep on enjoying it. And I know the last video I did, I said I was gonna quit doing the custom builds. I'll be honest with you, I think I'm still gonna do a few. There's still a few in the back of my mind that I want to do, and I'm gonna get them done yet. I will. I hope I'm around that long, because it might take me forever. But yeah, right now, I have a disaster area on the bench right there. That's going to be my tri-drive grand hauler dump truck, and it's kind of a disaster right at the moment. But been working on that a little bit at a time between doing details on these other ones. And some nights you just want to go to the shop. Like tonight, I changed out a bunch of the Phillips head screws and put the nice little hex-headed bolts in instead. And, the little detail things that aren't real strenuous, and you want to do them anyway, so you just kind of take a relaxing night and do the simple stuff. And that's what I like to do some nights, is just not have to think too much about it, and just, I'm still wrenching, and it's just as much fun as a complete build. It's just the final details, the finishing part touches, it's all part of the hobby, right? So now I'll really be surprised if anybody stuck around this long. I get kind of long-winded, but been a while since I posted some videos, and now I'm kind of getting back into it a little bit. Yeah, I'm not going to do a step-by-step on building these trucks, because I think there's enough guys out there that are doing that. But I'll just kind of go through the details and what I did along the way, and when the truck's finished, and people kind of get the idea of it anyway. So anyway, that is, I think, the conclusion of this video. So you guys all have a good one.